Mm-hmm.
Brother John McLaughlin, so glad to
Brother
join.
Greg, yes. Thank you.
This is awesome. We are talking about primarily a new recording here, Liberation Time. And
Yes.
when I got the memo that this was coming out, I was excited. And when I listened to the music, I was even more excited.
That's a good sign.
Yes, sir. The title track really, really blew me away. And when I think about how it sounds, right away my mind went to So What and Impressions and the urgency of those two gentlemen that, you know, were your mentors directly with Miles Davis, of course, and of course, on record with John Coltrane. And when I heard you,
You're talking about my two heroes, really. Not
oh,
only that,
mhm.
the musical structure
Yes, sir.
of Impressions is identical to So What.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
fact, and that's where Train got his idea for Impressions. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, and I stole it from both of them,
I love it. I love it. I love it. But when we talk about, liberation, those two cats were some of the freest people that I can think of. And in this era of COVID and pandemic, and as we try to evolve in being more mindful, human to human, tell me a little bit about that title and what it means to you, Liberation Time.
It's literally, it means literally everything. The title is let's just backtrack a little bit to the where the music started, because it really, in a strange kind of way, Greg, this album came out of the COVID situation,
Yes, sir.
which kind of sounds weird, but I had all the concerts and tours canceled last year, like every musician, every actor. No concert, no theater, nothing going on. And by the end of September, early October, I was really getting frustrated, and the desire, because playing music and playing improvised music, I mean, jazz, if you will, whatever kind of genre you want to put it in, it really doesn't matter. It's the fact that when you get to play with the people you love, who are great players,
yes, sir,
and you can, not every night, but you can have the experience of individual freedom through music, and even collective experience through improvised music. And so the desire really to be free, which is what I missed most of all, I missed playing, came out. And since this structure, Impressions and So What, I've been living with this since the first time I heard it was in 1959 on Kind of Blue.
Yes, sir.
I think it's the first time he recorded it. And of course, he subsequently recorded it number of times with increasing tempo every time.
Indeed.
And then when Train came out with Impressions, the album and the title track, the thing is, I was already hooked to Train from Milestones, which was the album that came out before Kind of Blue.
That's right.
Because Train, he had the sound. He had the sound. Miles had the concept. I mean, he wasn't just a great artist. Miles created new forms and new concepts in playing, in improvisation, in jazz music, which just floored me. I mean, when I heard that for the first time, Milestone, I mean, I've heard him. Because I heard him, I mean, I go back a long time, Greg.
Yes, sir.
In the 50s, I remember hearing Miles as a young man playing with Charlie Parker.
Right.
No, I mean, he has some, his school is perfect. I mean, coming up with Charlie Parker. But when he brought Train in, and subsequently he made a series of records for Prestige. I don't know if you all those Smoking, Walking.
Oh yeah.
And this was the quintet with Train. And there's some of the most beautiful recordings. And I know he roughed them up because he had a contract with CBS.
Right.
Offered to him, but he had to finish the contract with Prestige. So he was roughing it up. But they're not rough at all. At all.
How do you record 4 albums in 2 days? I don't know.
Unbelievable. No, but he picked the right standards, and the way Miles would play a standard, you know, and then Train, and of course he had, I think it was Philly Joe on drum, Paul Chambers. Was Red Garland playing piano?
Yes, it was.
That was the Milestones rhythm section.
That's right.
And I loved that. But of course, and Train came out with his own thing, and Impressions, and then I Love Supreme, which was marked me for life. I'm still marked by that album because at that time, that was that album. I think he recorded in '64, but I think by the time I got to Europe, it was '65.
Yeah.
And so I would be 23 years old.
Wow.
And that album blew me away because I couldn't understand it, Greg. I tell you, the thing is, there's this very beautiful poem on the back that's called Train Writes.
Right.
And it's a poem and a prayer at the same time, but it's so real because I was already starting looking for the answers, the big answers to life. You know,
Yes, sir.
What am I doing here? Who am I? What's this unbelievable universe we're living in? Yeah. All those big questions, and that poem and prayer really helped me through a difficult time. But the thing was, I knew the poem on the back corresponded to the music playing on the album. Thing is, I couldn't get it. I didn't have the head for it. So I was listening to that album every day for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. No, but I got it. All of a sudden it's like, of course, you idiot. That's it. You know, that's it. Sure. And it just really confirmed, you know, why I'd always loved Train. And Miles, of course, the in a sense, the complete hedonist, you know, with the women and the fast cars and but Miles, I don't see any difference. You know, people talk about the spirituality of John Coltrane and the hedonism Miles is. For me, they're both great spiritual beings. It's nothing to do with what you're playing with, you know.
Right.
Because it just has nothing to do with it. Miles had the as deep impact on me with his hedonism as Train had on me with his spirituality.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
It just confirmed everything. So that and when, of course, Impressions came out, I knew right away it was So What. You know, Train took it, and that became a working platform. I mean, how many people have recorded on that tune?
Right.
Given it different names and called it the same name.
That's right.
And done a great job with it because it's really simple. You got 2 chords, and what are you going to do? And what are you going to say?
Yes.
And this is the whole point. And by the time I got to October, and it's this structure, as I say, I've been living with for over 50 years now, since 58, what's that, 68, 78, 98, 98, 99, 50 years at least. And I took that, I said, I've got to be free with this. And so that was as simple as that, because the desire and the need for freedom, because in jazz music, I'm sure you know, Greg, is a way to freedom, not just freedom of expression, freedom of being.
That's right.
Where you and the music become one, and the rhythm, and you are all together. And this is just unique. Every time it's unique. But this, this doesn't come every time because it's to do with inspiration. We have no control over inspiration.
Right.
The only thing we have control over is are you ready when the inspiration comes?
Yes. Yes.
And that's where the work of a musician comes in. That's where his craft is. That's where he devotes his life to being the finest musician possible, because it's endless. You never get to the end anyway.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I love
Which is beautiful.
I love
beautiful because every day is different, and I'm a little bit different every day. So, and I mean, for example, I wouldn't play that structure the way today I did it on the album.
Right.
Already, I know it's because I'm different. Anyway, it's always different. It's impossible to play the same thing twice.
Absolutely.
Even if you want, it's impossible. So basically, it was out of frustration and the desire to be free, and so the only way I know how to do that is through music, right? So, and I was very fortunate because we got some marvelous players on the album.
You sure did. You sure did.
And just and we did what, of course, because of the quarantine situation.
Yeah.
It was really difficult in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I grew up, the old school is the band goes in the studio and you record live in the studio.
That's it.
It's not, you just don't do this kind of, well, you do your part and then I'll do my part. And then, this always was like dimly viewed, wasn't it? It was always like, well, this, it's not real. But in fact, if it's set up right, it's pretty real, Greg. Yes, because when you get musicians playing, I would set up a session with the fake drums and the fake bass and the fake keyboards, and then I'd play my heart out and hope for the best. And but everything is live in that sense. There's no, once it's recorded, it's recorded. It's not like, well, can I just come in here and like redo the end of my solo or something? It's not like this. I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. So I would send out these sessions with the charts, and my instructions were really, you hear the harmonies, you hear the rhythm, you hear the bass part. But don't play it like the way I play it. Play it the way you play it. Right. And especially in the improvisations, I want to hear who you are. I want to see you. I want to feel because for me, it was a very intense period because of, and like I said, it's like this, I don't think I would have made this album without the COVID situation, which might sound weird, but I don't think I would have been brought to the point of frustration where it was just like boiling in me, and it just had to come out.
Yeah. No, you hear that. You hear that on here, and it's just kind of like, there's another tune too, Right Here, Right Now, Right On.
Yeah.
Brilliant head, brilliant melody over that, and it really, it kind of, in a strange way, throws me back to the Extrapolation days. That recording had a huge impact.
Wow. Oh, thank you.
And to hear this version of it for Right Now, you can hear that tension in that music, but it's still sort of an optimistic kind of a sound, if I can say that. Is that some of what you were feeling? Yes, it's catharsis, but were you also looking forward?
I'm the eternal optimist, Greg. At my tender age, I'm through with these people who are like cynical about life, about everything. I mean, they're missing the whole point. I mean, it's like the blind walking around. It's like what I was saying before. We're living in this unbelievable, mysterious, infinite, eternal universe, and we're part of it.
Yeah.
We're all part of it. We're all connected to it. How can you not be in awe of just being alive? You know,
Right.
I mean, a human being with 50 trillion cells. Yeah. Walking miracle. We're all walking miracles.
Yes, sir.
You know, yes. Remember what Einstein said? Einstein said there's two ways of looking at life. He says, oh, you don't believe in miracles? Oh, everything's a miracle. And that's what I subscribe to. You know, I'm alive in this moment. The present moment is everything to me, because the rest, I don't know what is. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow doesn't exist. There's 2 days where we cannot do anything, yesterday and tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So today is it. And right now is the moment. And so this right here, right now, right on, I wanted to get the feeling of urgency, but not negative. I'm glad you picked up on the positive, because you know, it's all about love in the end, isn't it, Greg?
Yes, sir.
In fact, only love can make things work, really. Mm-hmm. If there's no love, it's not going to work in the end. Mm-hmm. You know, absolutely. But in music, we're all brought together by love. You know, and the people who listen to music, they love music. So we're all together in it. You know, this basic, fundamental human nature, we're all connected by love. You know, it's as simple as that. And so it is. I hope the whole album is optimistic, because I am an optimistic man. I know the world looks very, very strange at the moment. I mean, socially speaking, it's very disturbing, some of the things that we see happening in the world, the divisions between humanity. You know, it's the big, big lie. And a lot of people are subscribing to it. Yes, we're all different, but what it is, we're all unique, aren't we?
Absolutely.
And the uniqueness is amazing. Everybody's so unique. And all I want to see is like what I was saying to the musicians. Don't even think what I would like to hear. I want you to be yourself. But this, I got to tell you, Greg, this is the lesson I learned directly from Miles. He was always like that. Always. He loved his musicians, but he wanted them to be free. Okay. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Because when I hear the two of you, you know, together, and the lessons you've learned subsequently, there's this commonality, like you said, of just complete freedom and just embracing the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the only moment we have, really, isn't it? It's one right now.
Indeed. Man, I would be remiss. A couple more questions that I do have.
Please.
There are a couple of moments on this record where you are playing solo piano, and I think in terms of other artists whose, you know, primary interest, say for instance Charles Mingus, was the bass, but he has this beautiful solo piano album that's actually one of my favorite Mingus albums, and you hear the mind of the composer. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, number one, do many of your songs originally come from the piano? And including these precious, almost naked moments of you at the piano, what kind of insight are we getting into your level of structuring songs? How did you decide to include these moments on piano this time?
Well, it all goes back to my early days as I began studying piano before the guitar.
Okay.
When I was a child, and God bless my mother, who was an amateur violinist, and so she was so helpful to me, musically, encouraging me all the way. And she taught me violin, but I wasn't happy with the violin. So finally, I went and said, it would be a really good idea if I studied piano. So I did. I studied piano. I was about 8 that time. And so I studied piano until I was 11 when the guitar finally arrived, and I stopped the piano right away. But I had some technique and, playing simple Beethoven, Mozart, Schumann, stuff like that. And so I've always loved piano. Piano is and pianists, it's in the genes.
Right.
It marks you when you're very young. If you study one particular instrument, it stays with you, the influence.
Yes.
In any event, let's fast forward now a few years
Sure.
to about sometime in the 1980s. And I still had a kind of refugee piano technique, if you know what I mean. I could, these pieces, I could perform them. And so I wrote these pieces, but they're like short poems. I think you hit the nail on the head, Greg. They're like short poems. I don't have a technique, but I had enough technique to play what I wanted to play.
Yes. Yes.
And that's all they are. The one is from Milarepa, who was the 10th century, 11th century Tibetan Buddhist, who I discovered in the 1970s, and he's had a wonderful, strong and positive impact on me throughout the years. And so in the 1980s is actually when I recorded these 2 pieces. I know it sounds strange, but I had a MIDI piano, and I recorded them, and I had the MIDI files, because in those days they were just, it records the pedal, records the velocity, everything. So I just had the performances. And I was going through the archives because I knew when this music started to come out of me, Greg, the other pieces on the album, whether it's Right Here, Right Now, Singing Our Secrets, I wanted upright bass most of the time. And so I knew I was moving in a way, I was recapitulating, let's say, the 1960s, or even the 1950s with Miles and Coltrane, and then the 60s, Miles and Coltrane. It's always been Miles and Coltrane, Greg,
Yes, sir.
They're my gurus. I mean, I revere them. I adore them. Because they gave me so much. How can I ever thank them? I'm not even able to, but that's by the way. In any event, this music was, yes, I'm playing with a sound that I've been working with today. It's electric guitar, and there's some distortion in there, but this also, in a way, if I go back, just recapitulate and go back into the 60s. By 1965, I wasn't too happy with the regular jazz guitar tone, this classical guitar tone. Because anyway, there was no guitar player in Miles's band. There was no guitar player in Train's band. And so I'm listening to the horns, and I'm listening to Coltrane, especially after Love Supreme. And sometimes he's going for 2 notes at the same time.
That's right.
Bringing the harmonics out to bring the tone richer, to bring to articulate the depth of his passion out, getting it out. And so already in 65, I knew, and I could see, but there's some of the rock boys, they had these big amps. So I didn't have much money, but I was able to have a guy build me one that I could crank. I saw this analogy between Jimi Hendrix. When Jimmy came out, because even though Jimmy's got musically, we know Jimmy's not going to play Giant Steps. He's not going to play Moment's Notice. But he's going to play the Star Spangled Banner and kill it.
That's right.
And the work he did on the sound was beautiful. And for me, I saw the analogy between him and Coltrane. Working on his sound. The way Train was getting distortion out of his saxophone. which for me, I loved it. I mean, you hear the later recordings, whether it's Intergalactic Space,
Yeah,
Rome,
Meditations. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so this was it, especially after you know, when Jimmy came along. Jimmy had an impact. He changed guitar forever, you know, in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was very lucky. I got to know him, and what a gracious, lovely person he was.
Wow. Wow.
In
Wow.
fact, there's a funny anecdote, because one night, one day, I mean, we're going back to '69 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was around Miles's house,
Uh-huh.
and he was asking me about Jimmy, you know, and I said, Jimmy's revolutionary. He's radical. He said, well, you know, I never seen him. I said, you never seen him? And there was a copy of the Village Voice newspaper.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was looking in there, and I found the Monterey Pop Festival was playing in one of the art cinemas downtown.
Okay.
So I said, Miles, I'm going to take you to the movies. And we went to the movies that afternoon. And so watching the movie, and Jimmy comes on, and Miles is sitting, he's sitting next to me, looking Jimmy, and he's going, damn.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that was, and I eventually met Jimmy. I mean, I don't know if they played together, but in any event, the whole thing with growing up with Miles and Train, and the passion and the eloquence and the elegance with how they played. This, for me, that was my school. That's the only school I want to play with too. I'm saying, you know, be part of in a way.
Yeah. No, that.
And so that, in a way, these two piano pieces, they struck me with an atmosphere that was relevant to the atmosphere of the other pieces in a strange way. But I, you know, and I'm not a pianist, but I said, anyway, you know, I'm going to sell 15 copies of this album, because who's buying records? But I'm old school, Greg. You know, I'm like a painter. I have a painter friend, a couple of painter friends, and we were having lunch a few weeks back, and so I said, oh, how many paintings did you sell this year? He said, one, yours, the one that I bought.
Wow.
But he's not going to stop, you know, and I'm not going to stop making records.
Please don't.
You know?
Please don't, my friend.
No, impossible.
You've made my soul happy many a day. I'll tell you a quick couple of stories. One of them, I was about 2 years old when I first heard Bitches Brew, and I was afraid of the album cover. It was so intense. I had to turn it over. And I borrowed it from my father. I had to turn it over to go to sleep because I couldn't look at it. But man, I would just recue those get down sessions on stuff like Pharaoh's Dance or Voodoo Down, or even the tune named for you. It was just something about the way you guys were grooving. It just went into my DNA, and I just had to hear it over and over and over again. And in connecting that, when I got to college, that was the first time that I actually heard the Tony Williams Lifetime, the Emergency record. And when I first put it on, I didn't understand it. I was like, man, Spectrum, I got that, because that's swinging. They're just burning all over the place. But some of the other songs I had to listen to over and over, and now I can't stop. You guys are one of my favorite bands of all time, and it has to do with that synergy that you guys had. And it was like, yeah, you guys hung with Miles and got Miles's lessons, but you still were able to make your own statement. And I wonder, just selfishly, if you could share with me just any memories of Tony and Larry Young. Man, I've always wanted to ask you about them.
Oh, I mean, this was because I discovered Tony in, I think, '65 at the Miles in Europe album.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Tony would be 18 or 20. I mean, unreal, unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah, he'd be 20 years old. Incredible. And I discovered in the 60s, the Hammond organ trio was very, very popular.
That's right.
Because it was the trio, but it had a powerful sound. You know, I mean, and I remember Jimmy Smith, Jimmy McGriff, Richard Groove Holmes, brother Jack McDuff, with George Benson playing with brother Jack. I mean, and before he was singing.
Sure.
Going back to 66, 67, and George was killing brother Jack. Yes, he was. And so this whole Hammond organ trio was part of my life. It still is in a way. And so, of course, I've been following Elvin because he's with Brain. All of them, and McCoy, and it was Jimmy Garrison. Was Richard Workman with him before?
For a second, at first.
In any event, so one day I found this album with Elvin with Grant Green.
Oh yeah.
And who's on organ? Larry. I mean, you know, I used to call him Khalid because his spiritual name is Khalid Yassin.
Yes, sir.
But I know which is a shame that there's such a down on Islam because there's a beautiful side to Islam, like there's a beautiful side to all religions, and a not so beautiful side. And I mean all religions, but we won't go there. In any event, dear Khalid, you know, we were making like $20 a night because it was hard work. So Larry and I, we share a room every time. But at this time, as part of my ongoing spiritual education, let's put it like that, I become extremely attracted to the Sufis in the late 60s. So by the time I got to America, I was very much involved with the Sufi message, for example, of Hazrat Inayat Khan, who was a musician and became talked, and his son, Pir Vilayat Khan, was running the Sufi Center at that time. So I was very much involved in the esoteric and the spiritual and supremely tolerant side of Islam, the beautiful side of Islam. And so we would just have talks every night. We'd finish the gig, we'd go back to the hotel room, and we were sleeping in the same room. So we'd start talking about, you know, about God and about what does God think? You know, and just the great questions of existence and the different ways of perception in life. Because we change our mind, the world changes. You know what I mean? If we change the way we see things,
that's right,
the world is different. And we had a wonderful time. And he was so funny. He had, and it's really regrettable, I didn't have any kind of cassette recorder at that time.
Sure.
And neither of us had. We had no money. Anyway, but he was capable of, we'd be on the road and in a car traveling, and somebody would mention somebody's name that we all knew, a basketball player or a preacher or a politician. And if he was in the mood, he'd take that name and he would make up a song on the spot that was so funny and so real. And so, because he had fantastic, clear perception.
Wow.
I know he had a drug problem, but he had beautiful and clear perception. He was one of the most loving human beings I've ever had the honor to know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not only that, you see, and when I heard him play on that album with Elvin, him and Elvin together,
forget about
it. Because he was not in the Jimmy Smith, Jimmy McGriff, Richard Groove Holmes, brother Jack. He was out of that. He was moving into the quarter harmony, McCoy started
Yes,
with
sir.
Train.
Yes, sir.
But he did it on the Hammond organ, and he never heard that before. It was unreal, Greg. It was unreal. It was so good. It was so good. Even I hear it today. Larry, God bless you.
Yes,
And
indeed.
he had that. He had that.
Yes, indeed.
But there are times he could do it musically. The one, just a very small anecdote, where we're at the jazz workshop in Boston, sometime in the summer of '69, and with Tony and me, and in every show, Larry Khalid, he would have just like a little solo section where he just take it out.
Yeah.
And he could take it out. I mean, he could take it out. But every night was different. He never knew where it was going to go. But sometimes he would hit it. And he hit a thing. I don't know how it did it. It started rumbling, and then these noises. It was like coming from outer space with this rumbling from the ocean underneath. And I started to laugh. Yeah. But because it was so fine, it was so fine, Greg. It was too much. I started to laugh but I went out of control, and I was crying, but from laughter, my stomach was pain, and I had to turn around, turn my back to the audience. I was all embarrassed, they just seen this guy out of control. Maybe they didn't get it, but I got it. And all of a sudden I say, did Tony get it? And I turn on, and Tony's on his knees, hiding behind the bass drum.
Wow.
He couldn't handle it either.
That's amazing.
We lost it. And Larry had his head in the organ, and it was, man. What a beautiful goodness. Man. Beautiful.
Thank you, Brother John. Thank you.
Thank you, one more. Yeah, tell me.
One more question, and I know I don't want to monopolize your time. I'm just having too much fun with you. But
thank you. It's a pleasure, real pleasure, really, indeed, Brother Greg. Thank you.
Indeed. As we leave, I really, again, I want to encourage folks. Liberation Time. That's the new record coming out. It's a brilliant statement from a crazy time, but again, the optimism is here, the catharsis is here, and something a little different than normal here, Brother John, that you've combined a few different ensembles on one project. You've done it before on albums like Electric Guitarist, from the late '70s and so forth. But what mode of wisdom maybe would you give to a musician who maybe during this time or going forward wants to make a cohesive statement like this, but with different elements, maybe not the same band? Is there any wisdom that you would impart about how to have a unified sound?
A unified sound, well, first of all, you have to listen to the piece you wrote with a clear mind. And then we all know lots of musicians, and some we have access to and some we don't. And I had access to a few, but only from a distance. But the spirit of every musician you play with. You know what kind of spirit they have, and the direction they like to move in. And so you have to use your imagination and hear in your mind how that would sound with that particular person playing drums or bell piano, and how does it feel? First of all, you have to really love what they're doing. I mean, it's we unless you love what they do, how they play. I mean, it's not going to happen, is it? They're going to be out of character. But this like Miles, he loved all of his players, and he wanted them to be unique. He wanted us all to be unique, but in the context of the direction the piece has, the atmosphere the piece has.
Mm-hmm.
What does the piece say to you? And are those musicians going to contribute to the atmosphere? And for example, the titles are all significant. It's
Yes.
like singing our secrets. And because when we play, we're actually revealing our inner secrets, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the things that are essentially unspeakable. You know, there's things I'm unable to speak about how much in awe I am of some people, of existence, of just this universe. I don't have words anymore, which is why we play music, because with music, we're able to say things in a different way. But it's it's hit and miss at the same time, but that's good. If you don't take the risk, then don't bother. You know, you got to let go of the control. The control is yeah, you've written a piece, but let everybody be who they are, because that's the beauty of existence. Is like to see that person. Is why the instructions with the scores were like, be who you are, not what you think I want. And sometimes the disc would come back, the session would come back with another vibe in the same direction, but it happened so strong that I had to re-record my parts.
Wow. Wow.
But the thing, well, why not? Why not? I mean, I shouldn't be too attached to what I did 2 weeks ago. You know, if I feel I hear it differently now, I got to do it. It doesn't matter. I got to go for it. And anyway, be yourself. Just be yourself. Take the risk, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter as long as you're playing together. The minute you put the headphones on, and you're listening to those people playing with the bass and the drums and the piano or the horn or whatever, you're no longer separate. You're in the same room as they are. We're all in the same room at that point. And so what's the essential difference? You don't see them, but they're there with you. The presence is there, the spirit's there, and the talent and the passion, it's all there.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about sound, because you don't have to have your eyes open, if you know what I mean, unless you're reading a part. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's hard to give advice to anyone because it's so personal. But I think we could just look. I look back, and I mean, I never even met Train, but in my mind, he's in my heart, you know. In fact, when he passed away, there's a hole in my heart, and in 1967 that will always be there, because I loved him so much. In fact, I remember I was on a bus, and I was reading a newspaper, and I looked over some guy's shoulder, and I read John Coltrane passed away, you know, and I had to sit down. I had to find a seat to sit down. I was in such shock.
Yeah.
So, you know, what did I learn from him? More than I can even possibly say. So I think if we follow our instinct and follow our intuition, the intuition don't lie, really, does it?
That's right.
Your inner feelings, they're what's real. And just follow your inner feelings, follow your intuition. Take a risk, though. Take a risk. Let the people be who you're going to play with. Don't try to control them. Controlling how would I say? Control's a no-no. You know, I don't think Coltrane tried to control McCoy or told him how to play.
No.
McCoy felt it right away. Tony felt it right away at that early age. And I know how much Miles loved Tony. Yeah. Because I was there when Tony left.
Wow.
And I now remember saying, I love Tony. You know, at that point. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Blessings and peace on
Thank you,
Brother John.
I hope.
Really appreciate
Please feel free to edit, you know, because I do tend to go on a little bit.
It's all good. You have made my year. It's been
Oh,
awesome.
you've been so sweet. God bless you too, Greg.
Yes,
Peace
sir.
and happiness. Take
You
care
too.
of yourself.
You
Stay
too.
well. Stay
You too.
healthy.
Okay.